This is Lara Henares making your day with part 38 of the Milk Wars, chapter The Logical Structure of the Breastfeeding Movement. Method, a narrative of how, without money, with grit and determination, together with initiative, imagination, and talent for organization, above all, with the ability to think out of the box, to explore the untried and the unthinkable, the breastfeeding advocates brought about a series of unexpected tipping points that led the way to a successful campaign to revive a lost breastfeeding culture in a comparative short time of 6.5 months. Abstract, a narrative of how, after 20 years of blatant violations of the international code and national laws, amidst official neglect and lack of interest on the part of national leaders, after 11 versions of the implementing rules and regulations, IRR discussed and discarded, the 12th version of the IRR with enough force to ensure compliance with the law was finally approved after 6.5 months of determined effort by a small group of breastfeeding advocates. Tipping point that caught the interest of decision makers was not breastfeeding as a public issue, but breastfeeding as an economic issue. An innocuous paper entitled The Economic Consequences of the Loss of the Breastfeeding Culture in the Philippines, 2005, led to a fully attended legislative committee hearings, then to the National Anti-Poverty Commission, and finally the Presidential Cabinet meeting, a private dinner with the President, interminable arguments before the Bureau of Food and Drugs, to the final approval of the IRR, subsequently challenged before the Supreme Court, which finally affirmed it a year later. The entire media, print, radio, and television refused even to discuss the issue until the breastfeeding advocates grabbed the headlines around the world by breaking 2 Guinness World Records on simultaneous breastfeeding. An example for all developing countries to follow. This advocacy was based primarily on the change of prevailing attitudes. More about this after these messages. This is Lara Henares making your day with part 38 of the Milk Wars, chapter The Logical Structure of Breastfeeding Movement. Results and conclusion. This is the pattern of action every third world country may consider, and which the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine may consider recommending to its foreign members from the poor nations. The result is the institutionalization of a set of implementing rules and regulations that regulates and effectively does away with the advertising of formula milk intended for infants and young children up to 2 years of age, forbids milk companies from funding or otherwise dealing directly with pregnant mothers, health workers, and the general public, and forbids them from ever making health claims, etc., etc. Among others, their intended results were: number 1, breastfeeding stations in all branches of the SM supermalls, 3 of which are among the 10 biggest in the world. Number 2, synchronized breastfeeding worldwide every year at the same local time in a 24-hour period in all countries, in all time zones. Number 3, mass breastfeeding depicted all over media and internet, which signals the end of the attitude that exposure of breasts to incite libido is equated with the exposure of breasts for nursing a new generation. If it was good enough for baby Jesus, then it is good enough for the baby. Number 4, the official recognition of the fact that for a poor, non-milk producing countries, breastfeeding is the most far-reaching and cheapest strategy for the alleviation of poverty. Number 5, the official recognition that breastfeeding provides the social capital that ensures the lifelong health and well-being, the emotional stability and intellectual development of the future citizens of this planet. And number 6, above all, the official recognition conceded by the milk companies that mother's milk is the gold standard for infant feeding, and there is no substitute for breastfeeding. More tomorrow, my dear friends. This is Larry Henares, making your day, saying good day, God bless you. Thank you very much for being with us. Till next time, hasta la bye-bye.